Hi there. Welcome to the update for week 3 of the Aries lunar cycle, and we are looking at the full moon in Libra. The Aries lunar cycle itself is all about spark. What has been sparking for us? What was this new wave of passion and energy and inspiration that's been coming up for us within the last 3 weeks, and how have we been moving through that? So in week 1 of the cycle, we were starting to gain some clarity as to how we can start pushing our new ideas and our new creative actions forward, all the things that's coming towards us that we have been chomping at the bait to get to within the last 2 years as we've been working with the Aries eclipse energy that we've been talking about in the last several videos. But all those things that have been stirring with us within the last 2 years, this previous cycle or this previous new moon at the beginning of this cycle 3 weeks ago was really an opportunity to start showing up in that and really start to go after the things that we want to go after for the next chapter of our life. And in week 2 of the cycle, we were looking at how we could develop some awareness as to how we can start to nurture and protect the things that we're working on through the first quarter moon in Cancer. And that was really about working through any of the old stories and limiting beliefs that we've been moving through and sort of that have been clinging onto us as we're going after these new things within the last 2 years. And as we are starting to really take action on those things this month, Cancer really was an opportunity for us to do some reflection on that. And, what are our familial stories? The place that we hold in our families and the stories that we listen to, or the place that our role gives us in our families that tells us we can't go after things because that's not, how people are used to us showing up. All those sorts of things. We were starting to develop, well, I know what's important to me, and these are the things that I want to work on. And so how can I now set up some boundaries so I can mother and take care of myself, and I can choose me to step into those things. So now as we come into this week 3 and the full moon in Libra, as I've already sort of touched base on, this is the first full moon in Libra that's not tied to eclipse energy within the last 2 years. So it's still very much directly tied to the Aries energy, the trailblazer that we see behind me, because this new month, the month of Aries, the month of April, with Aries being its ruler, was a solar eclipse. It was the last eclipse we're going to have. So it really was the shooting point of all the things that we have started to desire to go after in the next chapter that have come up for us over the last 2 years. While those things were happening, we were in a really uncomfortable place as well, as we were learning how to communicate differently and partner with new people and perhaps let go of old relationships or old ways of communicating and partnering and relating and interacting with others that were not going to suit and were not in alignment with the things that we want to build moving forward. And that really touched base on, a lot of relationships might have fallen apart. A lot of relationships might have just had drastic changes as to how we want to show up. So this full moon, not being tied to that eclipse energy within itself, is an opportunity for us to show up in it, to show up with all the growth that we've been making, to be accountable for the growth that we've been making, and to start applying the new ways of communicating and the new partnerships that are coming in for us. How are we now going to really work with those partnerships and those new relationships as we start sending our goals forward, as we continue to take action throughout this month to set us up not only for the rest of the year, but also for the next chapter that will take us into the next 18 years of our lives. So this full moon is a very pivotal and powerful moment that I hope we can take some time to celebrate on. I know that for me personally, the full moon is showing up under the under the time where we have a holiday this weekend. I grew up with a Jewish background, and so I'm being called under the Passover energy that's coming in this weekend to show up with my family. And I've made such drastic changes over the last 2 years where I definitely have shown up differently in my family. I've shown up differently in the way that I show up even with my husband, my partner, and with my children. And my values have shifted. The way I express myself based on maybe what I've always felt deep inside shows up differently, but I still cherish and value tradition. I still cherish and value family, and I cherish and value those people that want me to be a part of that, and I want them to be a part of my life as well. So it will be interesting for me to come up this weekend and be surrounded by people who I have definitely outgrown my old way of stepping into that world. And I'm a whole different person coming out of the last 2 years, let alone, more years than that, but certainly within the last 2 years, and how I choose to show up. And so I look forward to being given that opportunity and to go with love and with compassion for everybody, and also to have diplomatic relationships with people, to bring harmony to the table, to want to see other people's growth and to celebrate their growth as well. The following week will be Easter, and that will be another opportunity, as I come from a mixed background, or I'm married into a mixed background, and that's another opportunity. And of course, that will be with the last moon or the last quarter moon in Capricorn, and that's the idea of choosing what's going to surround our framework. How are we really going to step into all the things that we've started to put forward based on all we've learned within the last 3 weeks? And at that point, it will be 4 weeks. So as I talk about showing up with my family and showing up differently with family and choosing to, walk forward with positive emotional reactivity so that I can respond to things in a much more mature and collective way that I know will suit me moving forward and will be in harmony and will be diplomatic to work with other people that perhaps maybe have not worked through certain things, and I can respect where they're at while also giving that to myself, that know where I land and all that. So that's a huge piece of the relating aspect that's coming up for me. And a second piece of that is where I am launching myself forward. So I have new partnerships that I've been working with and new relationships that I've been working with. And this weekend I have one of my new partnerships coming in to where I live, and she'll be staying with me, and we're working together on, we're going to be doing a full intensive and work within ourselves that will hopefully, and I know will, turn into something and part of the projects that we're creating moving forward, where we get to learn this week together, or this week coming together, we get to grow together, we get to show up in all the growth that we've both been working on separately and together. And that's setting us up to develop our framework, as I was just talking about, for that last week that will come at the end of last week when she's leaving. But it sort of sets the groundwork, this is what I choose moving forward. This is where I choose the growth to happen. And while we're working with that Libra moon, this is also where, I'm going to use the word choice, but just showing up in that accountability, that I might not choose to be so heavily involved in things that I used to be involved in, but I don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater anymore. I've made several of those decisions, but I am able to show up how I would like to show up, and I'm able to maintain and sustain relationships that are important to me because of tradition and value, which is very much a Libra thing. While also getting myself geared up to creating the new and setting myself out with just full confidence and courage for myself, doing the trailblazer that's behind me and really taking the stand and saying, this is what I choose. This is what I want to go after. So I hope that everybody has been able to catch the spark from the beginning of this month, which was about 3 weeks ago now. And I hope that in 2 weeks ago, you started to really develop some boundaries to support that, and learn how to use your voice to support it, and learn how to structure your time and your resources of time, money, energy, emotions, all of that to help support you. And now we get to step into those relationships, and there's a testing period that happens with full moons. Some of us feel like it's more like an exam. But now that we've worked with this energy, and now that we will be called to step into relationships and see ourselves in relationships as we've set those boundaries, and as we've set up maybe new routines and new schedules and new systems to manage all this stuff, how are we going to be able to stick with that? And how are we going to show up for our best selves? The remainder of the week takes us through after Libra into next week, the beginning of next week, Monday. Will take us into Scorpio energy, and that moon is still bright. It's coming down and it's starting to wane, but by the same token, we're still being in that full light through the energy of Scorpio, which is about transmuting and transforming any fears or any desire to control outcomes, or any desire to latch on to the resources that we share with other people. So that could just be the emotions that come up over this weekend. And where do we need to let go of some of those emotions in order to make room for different resources that we can take to shoot us off in our next direction? So for me, that will show up. I'm going to be moving through, I said, this intensive course, and it's a lot of body work that I'm going to be moving through. And I deal with a lot of hormone and physicality stuff at this stage in my life. And so I'm sure working through the emotions that will arise this weekend, and then working through the body and learning how to let go of that so that I can make room for more growth moving forward. I have new stuff happening in that hormone world. I'm working with new specialists in the hormone world. I'm having new tests done to really show what's going on, so that accountability is showing up again, and I'm sticking to it. I'm letting go of the fear of what's out there and what's going to come back to me, so that I can start a new practice of what is going to hold me for the next chapter of my life, for the next 18 years, as I, move from, at my age, it's perimenopause, but then I'll move into menopause, and then I'll move forward, right? So it's, how am I going to guide myself and support myself so that I can create all the amazing cycle point things that I want to create, and all the amazing Stacey as a mom to teenagers who will be adults and have their own babies. And I want to be all those wonderful things in my best self. And from Scorpio, we'll move into Sagittarius energy, where I'll start to be able to see potential, or I'll start to be able to seek potential and seek new perspectives, because I started to let go and release the things that have been sticking to me and keeping my emotions tied to not only other people, but tied to my fears, or tied to things that have just been keeping me stagnant. Because, for me on the hormone journey, it's just been keeping me where I'm at, because I don't want to rock the boat. But it's time to rock the boat a little bit, so that I can develop new things. I can explore new avenues that are going to help me even more, and release or give me back even more energy that I need to move forward. And from Sagittarius, we'll move into Capricorn, which will take us to the last quarter moon, which really starts honing in on the choices that we're going to make to follow through on how the framework, what's going to support us moving forward. And so for me, because I follow all the processes, all the themes, and I know exactly where I stand, I feel like I have a very good idea of, obviously, moving through this week, knowing, as I've just discussed with you, how I will move through the week. I don't have my crystal ball to tell me exactly what will be coming forward and what I will learn next week, but I do know that those things are going to develop into the choices that I make moving forward for the framework that I want to support. And so we'll touch base on that next week. But I hope that this was helpful. I hope that people can relate to that and perhaps find their own story within it. I know that people are moving through things so heavy right now. And I hope that if you can take that bird's eye view and take yourself out and look within, and perhaps compare stories to other people's stories, it gives you a little bit of a process to look at. Like, I work with cycle points, and I can really look at the themes that we're working with, not only the weeks that I share with everybody, but those days in between, which you can learn more about that if you follow me on Instagram. I touch base on all the days and all the signs that we're working through, and all the themes that are attached to those. So a little bit over the map there, but I wanted to share all that with you. I look forward to closing out the month with you next week, and making some observations on the week that I had as to how I choose to move forward. And as always, you can find me on Instagram. You can message me down below, and you can reach me at themavenscall.com, where you can also find my archetypes of the Zodiac course, where I really dive into how you can work with each individual energy separately and find those individual energies within you. Just because you are a Aries sun or a Capricorn rising or whatever it is, we all have every single one of the signs within us. And so how can we hone in? How can we discover those signs and their archetypes to see where those energies show up for us? So lots of ways to find me. I'll link everything down below. And I look forward to touch base with you next week. I wish everyone a beautiful weekend and a beautiful week ahead. Take care for now.